In the days when Israel had no king, and the people did evil in the sight of the Lord, God allowed the Philistines to oppress them for 40 years. Amid this despair, a divine message came to a barren woman from the tribe of Dan. An angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You will conceive and bear a son. He is to be a Nazirite, set apart for God from birth. No razor shall touch his head, and he will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines." She told her husband, Manoah, who prayed for the angel to return. When the angel appeared again, Manoah asked, "What will be the boy's way of life?" The angel repeated the instructions, and as he ascended in a flame from the altar, Manoah fell on his face, realizing they had seen a heavenly messenger. In time, the woman bore a son and named him Samson. The boy grew, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him. Samson had grown strong, not only in body, but in reputation. The people of Israel whispered about his feats, the Philistines feared his name, and yet Samson lived with a heart divided. Though chosen by God from the womb, though marked as a Nazirite, though filled with divine strength, he often walked the line between obedience and rebellion. And one day, that line blurred entirely. While traveling to the Philistine city of Timnah, Samson saw a woman, a Philistine woman. She was unlike any woman he had seen in Israel. Her elegance, her poise, her beauty, they struck him like a thunderbolt. He returned home with a command, not a request. "I saw a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines. Now get her for me as my wife." His parents were shocked. "Is there no woman among your own people, among the daughters of your brethren, that you must go to the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson, blinded by desire, replied, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." What neither Samson nor his parents knew was that God was at work behind the scenes. Though Samson's motives were impure, the Lord was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines, and he would use even Samson's flaws to achieve his purpose. On the journey to Timnah, Samson separated from his parents. Alone in the vineyards, danger stirred. From the shadows, a young lion leapt at him, roaring with fury. In that moment, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and with his bare hands, Samson tore the beast apart, as easily as one might tear cloth. He said nothing of it to his parents. Not out of humility, but mystery. Samson was beginning to walk a solitary path, one where power and secrecy walked side by side. Days later, returning to Timnah to take the woman as his bride, he passed the place where he'd slain the lion. Curiosity led him to its carcass, and inside, to his surprise, a swarm of bees had made honey in the skeleton of the beast. He scooped the honey out with his hands and ate it as he walked, then gave some to his parents, but again, said nothing of its unclean source. The lines of Samson's vows were blurring. Then came the wedding. The Philistines welcomed him with a feast. As was custom, 30 companions were given to him. Perhaps to honor him, or perhaps to spy on him. Samson, feeling superior, decided to challenge them. "Let me pose a riddle," he said. "If you can solve it during the 7 days of the feast, I'll give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you can't, you'll give them to me." They agreed. Then Samson said, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." The Philistines were puzzled. They couldn't solve it, for only Samson knew the secret of the lion and the honey. By the 4th day, their smiles turned into scowls. Frustrated and angry, they turned to the one weakness they could manipulate, his bride. "Entice your husband," they threatened her, "or we'll burn you and your father's house. Did you invite us here to rob us?" Terrified, she wept before Samson, day after day. "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle and won't tell me the answer." On the 7th day, worn down and unable to resist her pressure, Samson finally gave in and told her the riddle's meaning. And she betrayed him. She told the Philistines. Before sunset, they came to Samson and smugly declared, "What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" Samson's eyes narrowed. His jaw clenched. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. In a burst of divine wrath and personal rage, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, a Philistine city, and struck down 30 men, took their clothing, and paid his debt in blood. Burning with fury and betrayal, Samson left the feast and returned to his father's house. But his bride, his Philistine bride, was given to another man behind his back. Not just anyone, but his own companion, the one who had been called his friend. This betrayal would ignite a fire in Samson's heart, and soon, that fire would spread to the Philistine fields. The Philistines retaliated, burning Samson's wife and her father. In rage, Samson slaughtered many of them and hid in a cave in the rock of Etam. The men of Judah came to him and said, "Don't you know the Philistines rule over us? We've come to bind you and hand you over." Samson agreed, on the condition they wouldn't kill him. They bound him with new ropes and brought him to Lehi. As the Philistines shouted, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. The ropes fell from his arms like burnt flax. He grabbed a fresh jawbone of a donkey and struck down 1,000 men. He cried out to God, exhausted and near death. God opened a hollow place in the ground, and water flowed out. Samson drank and was revived. So he judged Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. His strength was legendary. His enemies feared him, and his people admired him, though they often failed to understand him. But despite his mighty feats and his divine calling, Samson had one weakness, a heart easily swayed by the charms of women. And so it was that he came to love a woman named Delilah, from the valley of Sorek. She was beautiful, mysterious, with eyes like still waters that could drown a man's soul. Samson, the man who tore lions apart and crushed Philistine armies, was powerless in her presence. He lingered in her home, spoke sweet words to her, and laid his head upon her lap like a lamb that did not know it was walking into a slaughter. But while Samson loved Delilah, she did not love him. The Philistine lords came to her in secret, cloaked in greed and vengeance. Entice him, they whispered, and find out the secret of his great strength. How we may overpower him, bind him, and humble him. They each offered her 1,100 pieces of silver. Delilah's eyes lit up. A king's ransom lay within her grasp, and the weapon to claim it was the man who now slept in her bed. That night, as Samson rested beside her, Delilah ran her fingers through his thick locks and spoke in a voice as soft as silk. "Samson, my love," she whispered. "Tell me, what gives you your great strength? How could you be bound and made helpless?" Samson smiled, amused. "If they tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, I'll become weak like any other man." Delilah passed the false secret to the Philistines. That evening, as Samson slept, she bound him with the cords. Hidden men waited in the room. Then she cried out, "Samson! The Philistines are upon you." He awoke and snapped the bowstrings like threads touched by flame. The ambush failed. Delilah was humiliated, but she was not finished. The next day, her voice turned cold and accusing. "You mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me truly, how can you be bound?" Samson, still playing the game, replied, "If they bind me with new ropes, never used, then I'll be weak like any man." Again, she bound him. Again, she shouted the alarm. Again, Samson broke free as if the ropes were nothing. Now her tone grew sharper. "You've made a fool of me, Samson. If you love me, why do you deceive me?" A third time, he gave her a false answer. "If you weave the 7 locks of my hair into a loom and tighten it with a pin, I will lose my strength." That night, as he slept, she did just that, and cried again. "The Philistines are upon you." He awoke, tore the loom from his head, and stood, strong as ever. Delilah's face turned from seduction to fury. "How can you say you love me when your heart is not with me?" she wept. This is the third time you've lied to me. Day after day, she pressed him. Her words were thorns. Her touch turned cold. Her voice dripped with wounded betrayal. She wore him down, until his soul was vexed to death. And finally, Samson broke. A razor has never touched my head, he confessed. For I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If my hair is cut, my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak like any other man. Delilah's eyes glittered. She knew he had told her his heart. She sent word to the Philistine lords. Come once more. He has told me all. They came at once, silver in hand. That night, Samson laid his head in her lap, as he had done so many times before, but this time was different. She gently stroked his hair as he fell into deep sleep. A man entered silently and shaved away the 7 locks. The covenant was broken. The Spirit of the Lord departed from him. Delilah whispered one final time. Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke and said to himself, I will go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know, that the Lord had left him. They seized him. They gouged out his eyes. The mighty Samson, once a terror to armies, now stumbled blindly as they dragged him in chains to Gaza. The Philistines laughed, cheered, and celebrated. Their enemy was broken. Defeated. Humiliated. And Delilah? She vanished from the story, richer, but emptier than ever before. Time passed. In the prison, Samson's hair began to grow again. The Philistine lords gathered in the temple of Dagon for a great feast. They called for Samson to entertain them. Blind, humiliated, and mocked, Samson was led to the temple pillars. He prayed. O Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me once more, that I may with one blow take vengeance on the Philistines for my eyes. He placed his hands on the 2 central pillars and cried out. Let me die with the Philistines. He pushed with all his might. The temple collapsed on the rulers and all the people inside, killing more in his death than in his life. His brothers retrieved his body and buried him in the tomb of his father, Manoah. And thus ended the life of Samson, the mighty judge who was both a warning and a wonder in Israel's history. The story of Samson is more than a tale of strength and betrayal, it's a mirror reflecting our own struggles with temptation, pride, and purpose. Samson was chosen, anointed, and gifted beyond measure, but his downfall came not from the sword of an enemy, but from the compromise of his heart. Speaking head, so ask yourself. What have you been chosen for? What strength has God placed in you, and what are you allowing to steal it away? Bell, if this story spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe for more timeless tales that awaken the soul and challenge the heart. Latin cross, and remember. No matter how far you fall, God's purpose is never finished. Even in Samson's final moment, God used him to bring deliverance. He can still use you.